These are your first notes for second semester, so I'm calling them notes number 1. This is chapter 11, 11-1. It's page 639 in your book, and I will be referring to the book, so please have your volume 2, Math 2 book out as you're taking notes. Go ahead and copy this down. Everything on my paper you should have, and as I work out problems, you should be working them out too. All right, so notes number 1, adding and subtracting polynomials. The essential question is, how do I classify, add, and subtract polynomials? So pause this whenever you need to. And I'm going to go ahead and start in just a bit in the book on page 639. Okay, so it says, look in your book, page 639 to 641, for classifying a polynomial. So you will have problems like this in your Math Excel assignment, and you should be working on that during your asynchronous learning time. So starting on page 639, this is what we have. So it talks about how the degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of its variables. So you actually add up the exponents for all the variables it has. So just to show you, for example, here it's 8xy, that is one term, a monomial. The x has a 1 exponent and the y, so it has a degree of 2. 27 y to the 4th z, z has an invisible 1. You add the 4 and the 1 to get a 5. If it's just a number, it says up here, I think, oh, here, the degree of a non-zero constant is 0, and 0 has no degree. So since this is 11, it's not 0, it's a constant number, the degree is 0. And then if you turn the page, there are a couple things on this page, page 640, that you should see, but I'm going to go through that in the notes. Just remember, like terms have the same variables and the same exponents, and you add or subtract coefficients. So like if just looking right here, you see that they have the same variables and the same exponents, x squared, y to the 4th, y to the 4th. You would just add or subtract the coefficients. So you would do 2 minus 7, negative 5, keep the x squared and the y to the 4th the same. So just a quick review on that, but I'll go through that in the notes. Down here, it talks about standard form, which we will copy down next. But this is the chart you'll have to refer to when you are doing your Math Excel. So highlight it, circle it, something. Okay, so it shows how a polynomial could look and what the degree is for that polynomial. And then it also has this part where it says name using the number of terms. So monomial, binomial, trinomial. After that, we just call it a polynomial. If there's 4 or more terms, we really just say polynomial. And then it also shows, depending on the degree, what it's called. And what I just kind of drew some pictures of what the graph could look like. There's some glare on that. Okay, well, that's not good. Okay, so anyways, constant, it's just a point, like a point on a number line. Linear would be a line going through, infinite points, but it would be a line. A straight line, you could use a ruler. So like y equals 5x plus 9, y equals mx plus b, basically, that's linear. Quadratic is when we then have a squared, and quadratics are parabolas. And then cubic would be to the 3rd power. And it has it's kind of hard to see it here. It's like part of it goes down, and then it has this little zigzaggy curve in the middle, and then it goes up. And then 4th degree, it just depends on what it looks like. Okay, so anyways, that is in your book, page 641. You will have to refer to this chart. You don't need to take notes on it if you don't want to. I just thought I would show you it's in the book. Okay, so back to the notes. So I told you guys we were going to talk about standard form. So this is in the book, like you just saw, but it's good to write it down to help you remember it. So standard form of a polynomial. We always want to write our answers in standard form. So that's what I wrote right here on the side, kind of like a little side note. And remember, pause as like however much you need to copy things down. But we always write our answer in standard form. It's when the terms are in descending order from left to right. So starting on the left is your term with the largest degree, the largest exponent. So 3x to the fourth plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 1. Sometimes you'll see in the book or maybe in Math Excel that they'll have the terms out of order. Whenever you write your answer, you want to rearrange them to be in descending order by the highest exponent down to the lowest exponent. Also, I was going to say, if you ever do have to rearrange them, remember, always take the sign in front with it. So here the sign 3 is positive, 5 is positive with that plus. The 7 would keep that negative sign. So if I had to rearrange the order, it would always stay minus 7x. Wherever I move it to, you can rearrange the order, but it has to keep that negative in front. And then the plus 1, that would stay positive. Okay, so now we're getting to the actual part of the notes where we're going to practice. Remember, pause it whenever you need to. So we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting polynomials. The key, most important thing is that we are combining like terms, CLT. So we're going to combine like terms by finding the terms with the same variables and exponents, and then just add or subtract the coefficients. So these two start with just adding or subtracting two monomials. So go ahead and write those down and give it a try. And I'll go over how to do these. So pause right now, and I'm going to explain how to do them. All right, so let me grab a pen. So these again are just monomials. It's one term minus another term, or one term with a plus sign, another term. Okay. So all I have to do is add or subtract the coefficients. So again, x squared y to the fourth, x squared y to the fourth, they match up. So I just have to look at this 2 and minus 7. So negative 5. And then I keep x to the same power and y to the same power. So I'm not multiplying where the rule would be to add exponents. I keep the exponents the same. I'm just combining like terms. All right, and then the next one, 8w squared x plus w squared x. So notice that the w squared x is the same. I just have to add the coefficient. So that has an 8. It's plus. Then I don't see a number. It is an invisible 1. So there's an invisible 1 there. So 8 plus 1 would give me 9. 9w squared x. So remember, just keep the variables and exponents the same. They need to be like terms. They need to be the same exact variable with exponent, or else you cannot combine them. Okay, so now we're going to have some examples of adding and subtracting. Really just think of adding like combine like terms. Again, pause this whenever you need to. If I start moving on and you're not ready, just pause. So here's our first example for adding. I know it's addition because there's a plus in the middle. Okay, so you'll have problems where you have polynomials with parentheses around them. You have to look at what's in the middle. If it's a plus sign, you add. If it's a minus sign, you're subtracting. Sometimes you do actually multiply. We'll get into that later in this chapter. If it's multiplication, there's no sign in the middle. It would just be parentheses and then parentheses. So this is addition because it has a plus sign in the middle. So you can rewrite it if you want to without parentheses, but you could also just like maybe circle the like terms. Those are both x squareds. And then I could put a box around the next terms. Notice that when I circle or box, I do keep the sign in front. I want to make sure I know if it's a plus or a positive or if it's a negative. And then I can pick another shape like a triangle around the last term. There's other ways to identify. You can use different colors of highlighter and highlight them the same. X squared and x squared could be yellow, and then maybe a pink for the x terms, and then maybe an orange or a green or something else for just the numbers. There's a lot of different ways to do that. But anyways, when you combine them, all you do is add or subtract the coefficients. So positive 5, positive 15, that makes, I'm going to write my answer down here, 20x squared. Remember, you don't change the variable or the exponent. And then I have my 3x minus 2x. 3 minus 2 is 1. And I don't write the 1. It's an invisible 1 coefficient. So plus 1x. And then I have a 3 and plus a 4. So plus 7. Your final answer should be in standard form. And it is going from x squared, x to the first, and then there's no x term. Oh, and also there shouldn't be any like terms when you have your final answer. If you have like terms, then you would want to double check. Did you make a mistake or do you need to add them together or what? So that's pretty much it. And I also want to show you guys there's 1, 2, 3, 3 terms. It's a trinomial. Okay. This is the next one. It's subtracting. Whoops. I'm trying to move it so you can see. There. Okay, so again, the reason I know it is subtract is because it has this minus sign in between. So in between, we have two trinomials. We are subtracting because it has a minus sign. So pay careful attention on how subtracting is different. What you do is actually change. Again, you change all of the signs inside the trinomial. Let me use a red, actually. That might kind of show it a little bit better. So it's kind of like distributing. I usually show little distributing arrows, but you're really just changing all the signs. So that one's now, the 4m squared would now be minus. The plus m is now minus m. And then this minus 12 is now plus 12. So you change all the signs to be opposite, and then you combine like terms. So again, you have to look carefully to find your like terms. And what I actually have is no like term for a negative 4m to the third. That was a third power. There's no other terms here with a third power. So let me write my final answer. So that one stays the same, negative 4m to the third. I want to go in order. My next term would be a m squared. There isn't an m squared here, but there is here. It was positive, but then that minus sign switched it to be a negative 4m squared. Then my next term going in order would be the m's. And also here's a little hint. If you kind of lose track of your terms, you can cross them off once you add or subtract or bring them down. So that kind of helps me see like, oh, okay, I have a negative m and another negative m. It's minus or negative 1 minus one more 1, which would make negative 2. Negative 2m. And then I'm left with just my numbers. I've got a plus 9 and a plus 12. So 9 plus 12. So plus 21. And then I just want to double check there's no like terms. It is in descending order, m to the third, m squared, m to the first, and no m. Your constant always goes last. Okay, so that's how you subtract. All right, I wanted these to be pretty quick notes, so make sure that you've got this. I've got 2 problems for you to try, and we're going to meet back in class and go over how to do these. So if you don't have much time, we might be meeting back right now, or if you have a lot of time, that gives you time to think about adding and combining like terms. And then again, when you subtract, remember to change all the signs. In your homework or in your assignment, you'll have problems that are set up like straight across like these are. And you'll have some that are stacked up like how these ones are too. So you have to know how to solve both ways. And one more reminder, you guys, these notes need to have a 3-sentence summary on what you learned. Make sure you mention things like combining like terms, distributing the negative when it's subtracting. Maybe you could mention what monomial, binomial, trinomial are. There's a lot that you can review. Also, make sure you've got your 3 questions on the left. And I didn't even give you one up here. So make sure you've got your 3 questions on the left, 3-sentence summary, And also make sure you finish number 1 and 2 together in class. All right, so finish that up and we'll meet back in class.